Welcome to Rapid Fire Wednesdays Q&A for corporate immigration professionals. I'm Kimberley Robidoux, a partner in our San Diego office, and I'm joined, as always, by Miki Matrician, co-managing partner of our Boston office. How are you doing today, Miki?
Great. Hi, Kim.
Hey. So today we are doing a debrief of some key tidbits from the annual conference of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, which is AILA for short. So AILA is a member organization of over 17,800 attorneys across the US and globally. And then every year there is a conference in June where the most cutting edge legal updates and analysis is shared by experts in the field over the course of 4 full days. And during those 4 full days, there are 4 or 5 simultaneous tracks. So there's plenty of panels for attorneys to get the latest and greatest. So there was an incredible turnout this year of over 4,000 registrants with close to 3,000 in person attendees. And it was a very productive 4 days. The added bonus is the fact that we can catch up with friends and colleagues from across the US. And I also want to congratulate you, Mickey, on being elected one of the board of governors of AILA. Just a major accomplishment. And you were number one with all the votes. So, congratulations. We're super proud of you.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm so honored and I'm super excited to delve into all the work. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Kim. That was a fantastic conference, jam packed with information and great to catch up with colleagues. And then we also attended the American Immigration Council event where the winner of the fifth grade contest of the annual Celebrate America essay writing contest was honored. And I love it where, fifth graders from across the US submit their essays on how the US is a nation of immigrants and how immigrants make America great. And the winner was Lu Lee. Her family had fled Vietnam a few decades ago, and she talked about how after they resettled in the US, the family was given a really terrible welcome by some of her neighbors and shards of glass thrown on their lawn. This was obviously before she was born. But Lou's grandmother responded by making delicious spring rolls and shared them with all of her neighbors. And those neighbors who had hurled glass on her lawn came to love her family. And Lou was reflecting on that story and said that she learned, amazing things from her grandmother. It was a beautiful story where she concluded it's up to her and her people from her generation to keep this country great. And actually brought so many people in the audience to tears, including myself. It was really inspiring. And hi, Chukuli.
Yeah, we have a guest visitor today. He missed me while I was gone at the conference.
All right. So now to legal updates from the conference. And, we thought that today we would cover two important panels from the conference, the Verification and Documentation Committee and the USCIS Forum. So, Kim, as chair of the Verification and Documentation Committee, you led a panel with an official from the Department of Justice's Immigrant and Employee Rights Section, IER. Can you tell us some key tidbits?
Yeah, happy to do so. So our AILA Verification and Documentation Committee deals with, all things I-9 and E-Verify compliance. And, we discuss the importance of preparing for ICE I-9 audits as well as worksite raids. So it's really important to make sure that managers as well as employees know that everyone has rights, which mean that unless specified in a judicial warrant, individual employees are not required to provide information or documentation to the government officials. It's also important that no one obstructs or impedes the officers and our agents conducting a search. And as we've seen in the news, ICE has been really vigilant about taking people into custody if they do obstruct or impede. So be really careful about that. And one of the other things we talked about was temporary protected status. So, as for TPS, I know we spoke about it on the last episode of Rapid Fire Wednesday, but the TPS designations for a number of countries are slated to end. So, Afghanistan will expire in July, as well as Haiti and Cameroon that will expire in early August. However, the Secretary for Department of Homeland Security did not state anything about Haiti essentially being terminated via an announcement in the Federal Register. So, based on the regulations, it looks like Haiti is going to be extended or should be extended until February. So, we'll provide an update on that as well. 2023 Venezuela TPS work authorization that has already expired following decisions from the federal courts that have paused the termination of such TPS. And then they permitted the termination of TPS. So There's been a lot of litigation, and employers can, rightfully so, be really confused about what's happening with Venezuela TPS. So, for just the very specifics about the 2021 and 2023 Venezuela TPS, talk to counsel about that because it is definitely a confusing situation. There are also actions that HR teams, may take to determine what employees may be impacted in order to be prepared for potential disruptions in business operations, because we know a lot of HR teams have been working diligently to find out who in their population has been impacted by these early TPS terminations. And then also the parole programs for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, otherwise referred to as CHNB, have ended, and the parolee's work authorization has been revoked. For employers enrolled in E-Verify, USCIS has updated the E-Verify account, and employers are required to actually pull reports in order to determine who is meaning the employees' EAD cards have been revoked. So it's really important to speak with counsel about strategy to deal with this notification in order to possibly avoid any charge of knowingly continuing to employ an individual without work authorization. So those notices on the CHNB parole termination went to individuals around June 12th. And then we've just heard of some new notifications going out just as recently as yesterday, which terminated the parole, but they didn't outright revoke the EAD work authorization. So there's a lot of uncertainty there as well. So one of the other things that we discussed on our panel was the government's increased use of artificial intelligence, which allows the Department of Homeland Security to do more audits with less resources. So that means that it is crucial that employers be ready for I-9 audits and should do self audits, engaging with counsel while going through those self audits. And we also, as a committee and just here at WR, strongly recommend that every company have a worksite preparedness plan and policy in place in order to take action if action is needed.
Yeah, that was a fantastic panel, Kim. I learned so much. Um,
Thanks.
and and since we're talking about AI, at the USCIS forum, which by the way didn't have any government officials there because the Trump administration ended its longstanding liaison relationship with AILA. But that panel talked about how USCIS is leveraging AI also. But technology doesn't seem to be the government's strong suit, though, when it comes to USCIS. I mean, it took USCIS many years to implement online filings, and it has now done that for H-1B filings, along with a couple of other case types. And so there's concern about the rapid adoption of AI in USCIS's internal operations. The concern is that whether there's sufficient guardrails on the accuracy of the AI tools. Our advice to global mobility and HR would be to work with Immigration Council to ensure any RFEs and notices of intent to deny that are issued contain accurate information and that the requests are based on the law that is correctly applied. The other thing is that a lot of officers are leaving the administration in large numbers, and there's a negative impact of senior people leaving the USCIS, and that historical knowledge and expertise is lost. And so this might impact how the law is applied in adjudications in that way as well. So the panel also talked about the anticipation of longer processing times as adjudication officers leave the administration. For HR and global mobility professionals, I mean, the takeaway here is to try to authorize case initiations as early as possible if their policy is to avoid premium processing for extensions of the status like H1 or L1. And the other topic at the panel is the adjudications climate. There doesn't seem to be notable increase in RFE rates across the board, at least not to the magnitude that was seen in Trump 1.0, at least not yet. So back to the topic of technology, DHS is using technology to share information interagency. And we saw this back in April and May, where there was a large number of requests for evidence being issued for employer sponsor cases like H1, L1, and I-140 immigrant petitions. And here, the unusual phenomenon was that employers were receiving RFEs for the home addresses of their non immigrant employees because, as the RFEs indicated, they were going to issue biometrics notices for foreign nationals for whom they found adverse information. I mean, the immigration community got really nervous about this because people with removal orders or pending cases before the courts were getting picked up by ICE. And so we were concerned that the employee beneficiaries of those employer sponsored cases could be arrested when they go to get their biometrics appointments. Fortunately, for the most part, I think those employees were not picked up, thankfully. And I know of some cases that were subsequently approved after those biometrics RFEs were issued and they attended the appointments. We're continuing to watch this situation closely.
Yeah, well, with I guess with those updates, thank you, Mickey. So it's a wrap for this week's Rapid Fire Wednesday, and we will continue monitoring for court developments, agency guidance, and then provide updates in future episodes as we hear of them. And as always, for all the latest updates to the immigration landscape, please follow WR Immigration on LinkedIn, as well as Mickey and my personal profiles for breaking updates and insights. And then a reminder that we also transcribe each and every episode and share it through our weekly newsletter, which you can subscribe to. The link to subscribe can always be found in the video description. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Great seeing you again, Mickey, and live in person at the conference.
Great to see you too, Kim.